Attention all holiday patriots. The woke, radical left doesn't want you to know this. And frankly, I shouldn't be telling you it's very bad business. But you can get 25% off all Deprogram merch right now at deprogramshop.com. Help me put the Christ back in Christmas by buying a hoodie or maybe a dope hat for your grandma. I know she loves the Deprogram. All proceeds go directly to building a small cage for Meatball Ron, which is frankly more than he deserves.
Come on, man. Enough with the cage thing.
Eat my ass, Joe. You know he deserves the cage.
I think he belongs in a cage. I think we all belong in a cage. We're a fallen species, a blight, little more than rats wallowing in our own self-importance.
Oh, Jesus, not you too. How the hell did you guys get in the Oval Office?
Shut up, Joe. I've got merch to plug. Use the code HOLIDAYPATRIOTS at checkout. That's one word, Holiday Patriots, and get 25% off your order or 30% if you're a patron. That's a great deal, folks. A lot of people are telling me it's the best deal they've ever seen, and I believe them.
It's a great deal.
Will you two get off my desk for Christ's sake?
It's not your desk, Joe. I scratched my name on it. Jordan, get your hog out. Let's take a selfie with the Deprogram merch.
Don't do that. Don't take your bird out.
It's too late. It's out. Look at it, Joe.
I'm not going to look at it.
Look at his penis, Joe.
This is so fucked up, guys.
Jordan, let me hold it.
Nice little handful, isn't it?
Very nice. Folks, remember to go get your Christmas merch discount by going to deprogramshop.com and using the code HOLIDAYPATRIOTS at checkout. Act fast. This amazing deal is only available through January 6th. Merry Christmas to all, even the haters and losers.
I'm going to kill myself.
Test.
Oh,
Is everybody
wonderful.
recording?
Yes.
Is everybody fourth time's the charm? I don't know.
We're too excited.
Guys, I killed him. I killed him.
And
I'm the
there we go.
world's worst assassin.
Pulled from YouTube
World's
again.
worst assassin. Yet I killed him. I have taken his life because I cannot say I've taken his soul because he does not have.
He doesn't have one.
Who am I talking about, guys? Who have I killed?
Kissinger is dead,
I can't believe
baby.
it. I honestly thought he was going to live forever. I am literally shaking and crying and throwing up and pissing myself right now.
Pissing and coming. Shitting and coming.
I unironically, like it was during my work day because I still have to go to the fucking office up until January 1st and then I'm fully quit.
Hell yeah.
I was like in the middle of like a call. I turned off my camera when I read the JT wrote Guess Who's Dead and then just a picture of this guy. I walked over to my living room and I poured a fucking cold one and I sat down and just like muted the call and sat by myself in pure quiet and drank a beer.
Hell yeah.
That
Oh
was
my God.
a perfect way to end 2023, I believe, gentlemen.
Beautiful.
Honestly, now here's hoping that Bush is next. Wait, hold on. So Nixon is in hell, Reagan is in hell, Kissinger is they're the gang's all together.
gang's all here.
Oh my God. Oh fucking hell. I love the tweet that came out. It was like, ouch, ouch. Why is it so hot?
yeah. The account the only post is Kissinger dead yet? Has said no for years and so finally just says yes. Oh man, the
150,000
catharsis.
likes.
The catharsis.
I love it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a blessed and absolutely divine episode of the Deprogram.
Emergency episode. Kissinger dead.
Kissinger dead. Oh my God. Rip Bozo. Okay, what's that stupid meme where it's like, oh, me and my graduation, me and my wedding, me at Kissinger's funeral, and he's on the fucking suit.
I fucking posted that shit on Instagram, like that meme about 2023 wrap up from Spotify, but it's the picture of Kissinger, and my dad hits me up and he literally writes R.I.P. and I'm like, Dad, what are you saying? And he's like, I don't know who is this. Maybe it's one of those philosophers you like. And I literally just wrote Kissinger, and the dude sends me an audio message. She's like, he fucking died! Yes! Like, absolutely everyone. This like 55-year-old, absolute beauty. Sorry. The world is rejoicing. The amount of babies that will be made today just from
Honestly.
like a dead Kissinger being dead is like a natural aphrodisiac for everybody who has a soul.
Yeah.
I just wrote into Google Cambodia celebrates just to see, and it's like Cambodia celebrates water festival. Cambodia celebrates return of priceless stolen artifacts. Just wholesome things. Hold on, let me write Kissinger. Let's see what comes up.
Giant burning effigy of Kissinger, 400 feet tall.
Henry Kissinger's death met with celebration tributes. Oh, I love this so much.
Bless up.
Hold on, I want to see. Are there images? Please tell me. Oh no, I want to see mass rallies. Okay, I want to see Cambodians with their flag. Anyways, yes. So Henry Kissinger is dead. We're very happy for this news. If any idiot writes in some comment section somewhere, "Oh, but how can you celebrate the death of a..."
Yeah.
Shut up. Okay, if your math teacher died, you would celebrate. Okay, fucking some people. Let's begin the episode.
The same people will say, "Dad, I hope you die. Mom, I hope you die." Like to be edgy, and then, dude, but we gotta think about like Hitler 3.0. You know, we gotta respect it because it's death, bro.
Yeah.
He is lost into the sands of time, but thank God that there is there's a warmed spot for him. Just waiting, something nice and toasty. Inshallah.
Reagan kept his seat.
I'm literally like, I haven't stopped drinking beers and water all day, and I'm gonna keep it in my body for 3 months, and then I'm gonna find wherever his grave is, and I'm gonna empty all that shit. It's gonna be like fucking beer flowers and trees erupting out of his goddamn corpse. No, most likely nothing will grow because like it's just going to be festering, like swamp of acid.
Plot of
How
evil.
that demon has blood still that pumped for a century?
Doesn't.
I have
That's
no
the
idea.
point.
My God, the devil does not destroy his own nest, as we say in Arabic.
That's
okay?
that is such a good quote. That slaps so hard.
All right. So for anybody who doesn't know who Kissinger is, you'll be definitely on our side by the end of this. Yugopnik, do you want to start us with the lovely serenade of little baby boy Kissinger and what he was like? What was he up to?
Absolutely. Let me bring you up to speed on what Kissinger was like through his early years, development, his years in war, his years in university, his years in early politics, all the way up to his actual career in the executive body of the most powerful, actually, back then, like second most powerful country on planet Earth, after he started working with Nixon. So we start out with Heinz, just like the ketchup, Kissinger, which was his original name, who was born in 1923 in a city in Bavaria, Germany. His family fled to New York shortly before Kristallnacht, which many of you should be familiar with. If you're not, please Google it. They settled in Washington Heights, a neighborhood with many German immigrants, so much so that it was sometimes known as the Fourth Reich. They spoke English at home, and Heinz, the future war criminal, not the ketchup, became Henry. In his youth, he displayed few remarkable qualities beyond enthusiasm for Italian defensive soccer tactics and a knack for advising his friends on their different romantic exploits. As a teenager, he worked in a shaving brush factory before school and aspired to become an accountant. In 1942, Kissinger was drafted in the good old U.S. Army over at Camp Claiborne, Louisiana. He befriended a man called Fritz Kramer, a German-American private 15 years older than him, who Kissinger would call the greatest single influence on his formative years.
What a horrible dude that must have been.
Yeah, find him.
Yeah, you will learn. You will learn. He was a Nietzsche guy. I'm a fan of Nietzsche, so please don't associate these two. To the point of self-parody, he wore a monocle in his good eye. In his good eye, to make his weak eye, quote unquote, work harder.
Christ.
Kramer claimed to have spent the late Weimar years fighting both communists and Nazi brown shirts in the streets. We all know what these neutralist centrists led to only years later. He had doctorates in political science and international law. Oh my God, just like me. Except not a doctorate, because I have a fucking life. I get late. And pursued a promising career at the League of Nations before fleeing to the U.S. or high-ranking motherfucker. He fled to the U.S. in 1939. He warned Kissinger not to emulate what he called cleverling intellectuals and their, quote, bloodless cost-benefit analysis. Believing Kissinger to be musically attuned to history, he told him, only if you do not calculate will you really have the freedom which distinguishes you from the little people. This, spelled out for our dear listeners, means do what you will, consequences be damned, consequences are for the masses. The influential experience of his youth was even more elevated through his actual service in the 84th Infantry Division as it swept through Europe, I believe mostly France. He was, quote, more American than I have ever seen in any American, one comrade of his recalled for an interview. The work of the U.S. occupation with its opportunities for quickly assuming positions of authority really thrilled him at the time. In 1945, Kissinger participated in the liberation of a concentration camp and earned a Bronze Star for his role in breaking up a Gestapo sleeper cell, most likely the last good thing this man ever did. In 1947, usually, one would say, breaking up a Gestapo sleeper cell and like a concentration camp, like you need to, like, no matter what bad things you do for the rest of your life,
You
like
really
you
gotta
cannot
work.
outdo that. But he worked, man, really worked. Like, oh my God, as we'll see from my fellow colleagues here at the show. Listen, guys, I'm calling you colleagues. This is so professional. Moving on. In good old 1947, Kissinger enrolled at Harvard on the GI Bill, intending to study political science and English literature. To me, like, tinfoil hat on, like, he went to the army and he got to know, like, this PhD guy who basically worked for the UN of the time. And then afterwards, he managed to get into fucking Harvard, taking my, like, I'm just asking that question now, taking my tinfoil hat off. William Elliott, a well-connected history professor from the WASP elite, was his second mentor, who advised a series of U.S. presidents on international affairs. The young Kissinger was drawn less to classic exponents of Realpolitik, such as Bismarck, to the philosophers of history like Kant and so on, which, talked about civilizational decay, like from people like Spengler and so on. From these thinkers, Kissinger cobbled together his own view of how history actually operated. It was not a story of liberal progress or of class consciousness or of cycles of birth, maturity, and decline, like many philosophies propose. Rather, it was a, quote, series of meaningless incidents fleetingly given shape by the application of human will. Basically, explained in human language, there are no rules to be applied to the study of history. It is because of our subjective nature that when we look at it, we apply current rules to how it had developed in the past. As a young infantryman, Kissinger had learned that victors, quote, ransacked history for analogies to gild their triumphs, while the vanquished sought out the historical causes for their misfortune. His biographers often quote one sentence in Kissinger's undergraduate thesis titled "The Meaning of History." Quote, "The realm of freedom and necessity cannot be reconciled except by an inward experience." Such a deeply subjective worldview might seem surprising in Kissinger, but French existentialism at that time was literally all the rage at Harvard, and he pretty much most likely just followed the trend. Not only that, but this thesis that he, in which this quote comes from, was actually coined by Jean-Paul Sartre, who, by the way, I really like, not only because he was like a hardcore communist, but because he expanded on like 17 philosophical schools of thought during his life. Kissinger, in some magical way, managed to subscribe to Sartre's idea that morality was determined by action, but for Sartre, action created the possibility of individual and collective responsibility. morality. Whereas in total contrast, for Kissinger, morality's vagueness was a condition of human freedom. Again, to simplify greatly, your morality is defined by what you do. So do what your school of thought defines as good for the collective. That's how Sartre would explain it. Well, the other, Kissinger, took took it as an excuse to go full free-for-all. My actions will dictate for me what is good or bad, so I get to dictate what is good or bad through my actions. Again, simplified and quite, if I might say so, a sociopath's take on a rather brilliant outlook Sartre helped coin. And we know this from all kinds of these fucking insane people that sometimes, TikTok now, the modern thing is how people go to the therapist and then learn a lot of key phrases and quote unquote intellectualize their behavior, and then they use these intellectual phrases and so on, sociological and philosophical, to further oppress their partners or their friends, and rationalize both to them and to their friends that what they're doing is actually good. The same way, I guess, this fledgling philosophical development that he was having in Harvard built the Kissinger to an extent that we have had literally up until yesterday, which was a man who basically said, I get to define what morality is, and not the material realities around me, the way most socialists would put it. Moving on. In 1951, while pursuing graduate studies, Kissinger worked as a consultant with the Army's Operations Research Office, where he became familiar with the Defense Department's penchant for psychological warfare. Kissinger was taking a swipe at the bright-eyed social scientists around him who thought that the deadly confrontation of the Cold War would be solved with empirical and behavioral models rather than with existential danger. In 1954, Harvard offered Kissinger to the Council of Foreign Relations, or 1957, I'm not sure, whatever. Who gives a fuck? Why am I even saying years? Nobody's going to remember this. I hated history because of that. I love history, but then they would throw the years. I was like, what the fuck? Kissinger, while working for the Council of Foreign Relations, Kissinger published the book that pretty much, let's say, established him as a public figure. It was called Nuclear Weapons in Foreign Policy. Guess what the book argued? It argued that the Eisenhower administration needed to steel itself to use tactical nuclear weapons in conventional wars, to reserve nuclear weapons only for doomsday scenarios, left the U.S. enabled to respond decisively to incremental Soviet incursions. Kissinger intended his thesis to be provocative, and maybe could not have guessed that that's exactly what Eisenhower's Joint Chiefs of Staff had been telling the president pretty much through the years. Check and mate. He was absolute gold for the political elite of that time to pretty much hire on, as you know, how they do up to this day, a Harvard intellectual that's going to agree with them on everything. And in this case, quite literally the most insane of everything, and that is that just using nukes to stop incremental advancements of your enemy is actually a good idea. That is fucking peak intellectualism right there. By the late 50s, Kissinger did not need to choose whether to be an academic, a public intellectual, a bureaucrat, or a politician for the reasons I've previously mentioned. Each sphere of activity pretty much enhanced his value in the others. He was a sought-after consultant to presidential candidates, assuming that the American WASP aristocracy offered the likeliest path to power. He spent years tutoring Nelson Rockefeller in foreign policy. In 1961, Bundy, who became President John F. Kennedy's national security advisor, he hired Kissinger as a consultant there pretty much. Kissinger also finally got tenure at Harvard. Members of the faculty, of course, thankfully, objected that his nuclear weapons book was not only unscholarly but completely unacademic, but his dear friend Bundy pushed the appointment through, persuading the Ford Foundation, which again, some great guys right here, all coming together to put up money for his professorship. They pretty much lobbied him into the position. During his time as an advisor and foreign policy guru, he once said in an interview with Mike Wallace, I believe in 1958, quote, "I think we should go on the spiritual offensive. This was the impulse not of a critical intellectual, but of someone who did not question the American global mission." He was an absolute radical in this sense. Quote, "A capitalist society, or what is more interesting to me, a free society, is a more revolutionary phenomenon than 19th century socialism." This absolutely what it should sound like to our dear listeners and my two friends right here, unintellectual mambo jumbo, ended up being one of the most brilliant tools at the disposal of the American propaganda machine. Basically, what they said is, don't sell developing nations on capitalism, sell them on this vague notion of freedom.
Yeah.
Kissinger, like this dude, like how many things does he have under his belt that to this day fucking ruffle our feathers? Later we will real material ones. Now we're talking about his philosophical legacy to an extent, if you can call this philosophy, Jesus Christ. Kissinger is often called because a lot of people want to ask, like, what is he? So I wanted to answer this particularly. Kissinger is often called a realist, but if he was a realist, it was in the sense of making the image management aspect of foreign policy a priority. Also, Kissinger resisted describing himself as a practitioner of Realpolitik. He actually really disliked the term, but that's the beauty in a way of Realpolitik and as a concept, and why he to an extent embraced it afterwards, because it has been proven to be a remarkably flexible concept ever since it pretty much emerged. So it can be to an extent whatever you want it to be in domestic and foreign policy, really. It's a no philosophy if handled well, but it still, makes you look smart. Yeah. That's why I think he at one point stopped telling people, no, this is not my school of thought. And finishing and slowly moving into his next era during the Korean War, which Kissinger supported in public, but was also known to have talked about in private about how he knows that the U.S. cannot possibly hope to have a victory. And later on, as early as 1965, during his first visit to Vietnam, this is before Nixon got elected, Kissinger had concluded that the war there was a lost cause, and Nixon believed the same. Yet, they conspired to prolong it even before reaching the White House. During the Paris peace talks in 1968, Kissinger was there as a consultant, passed information about the negotiations to Nixon's campaign, which started, literally, I think this should be illegal, which started to fear that Johnson's progress towards a settlement would bring Democrats electoral victory. Get it? If Johnson got peace in Vietnam, then there would be nothing for Nixon to pretty much run on. Nixon's campaign then used this information in private talks with the South Vietnamese to dissuade them from taking part in the talks, in the peace talks. Nixon, of course, won a couple of years later, and with him, Kissinger was now elevated to an even greater seat of power, the executive body of the United States of America.
What a beautiful delivery. Absolutely. The overview of this man's life and the general trajectory that he took, you know what it's like? It's like you actively are choosing, when you play games like Detroit Become Human or something, where you get like several options to pick, and you always want to pick the most evil one. In The Walking Dead, where it's like, he will remember that, right? You want to pick the wrong fucking option just to see what the bad ending is. This is what this guy did.
And isn't it even in video games, sometimes you can't go through with it because you know these are pixels, and you're like, oh my god, my soul hurts. And some people like do it to real human beings, and on a massive scale, and they still don't do it. Like, it hurts my soul to see like little Baldur's Gate Asterion like get disappointed that I don't want to have sex with him. Like my soul is like crushed. These guys out here fucking burning Cambodian villages. It's literally sabotaging peace talks where your own people, even if we were racist, even if they were racist, like your white Americans are out there dying.
Yeah.
Like what the like Jesus.
The
Whatever, sorry.
ego on this guy was just absolutely unmatched. Like every report of people talking about him was like, yeah, this dude was a megalomaniac to the extreme. Everything he did was because he wanted to look good, or he wanted to, say, oh, you did a good job. It's like, oh, fucking loser. Oh my God, with so much power. This is what happens when you don't bully people.
Honestly.
Yeah. And when literally the people who inspired him told him don't care about consequences, you get to define what morality is through your actions, and big eats small.
Yeah.
So he became big.
Yeah.
Please deliver a nice midlife overview, if you would, JT, so we can have an idea of what his the pinnacle of his career may have looked like.
God. Yeah, this was really hard because there was so much evil. I had to condense this into a reasonably short stretch of words. But I'll start this section of Kissinger's story with a quote from the Rolling Stone article that was published upon the announcement of his death. Quote, "Every single person who died in Vietnam between autumn 1968 and the fall of Saigon, and all who died in Laos and Cambodia, where Nixon and Kissinger secretly expanded the war within months of taking office, as well as all who died in the aftermath, like the Cambodian genocide their destabilization set into motion, died because of Henry Kissinger." So that's about as damning as it gets, and that's from Rolling Stone, no less.
I'm gonna have to start buying that shit.
No kid, like dear listener, read the whole article. It's quite good. There are a couple like little lib bits in there, but it's overwhelmingly very, very good.
It's a strangely banger title for a Rolling Stones article. Henry Kissinger, war criminal beloved by America's ruling elite, finally dies.
That slaps.
And if you read the URL tag, it just says Henry Kissinger, war criminal, dead at 100. Oh my God, I love it.
That's good. I mean, good for them. They're doing the right thing there. Anyway, that's about as damning a quote as it gets. According to his biographer, Kissinger had the blood of at least 3 million people on his hands. He helped to prolong the Vietnam War with the addition of tens of thousands of American deaths and hundreds of thousands of Southeast Asians. He broke international law by greenlighting a secret, indiscriminate carpet bombing campaign on neutral Cambodia. He approved weapons shipments to Pakistan in the midst of a genocidal war against the people of what is now Bangladesh. He supported coups and death squads throughout Latin America. He approved a U.S.-backed Indonesian invasion of East Timor, leading to the slaughter of 100,000 people simply because Kissinger thought there was a possibility of East Timor going communist. And he was really flippant about all of this, too. Whenever he faced criticism, he would give some, Marvel bad guy one-liner to deflect. One of his most notorious was, quote, "The illegal we do immediately. The unconstitutional takes a bit longer."
My God.
The dude, his greatest crime, honestly, was being cringe. Tremendously evil man, but also like a Redditor to the extreme before Reddit was even a thing. But the laundry list of genocides and crimes against humanity is long, and guilt would have driven any decent person insane years before their 100th birthday. But Kissinger was sharp until the end. So let's look at a couple specifics. We'll start with the Vietnam War. In 1968, Kissinger leaked information to the Nixon campaign regarding the status of peace talks in Paris, which is what Ugatnik was just talking about. For this politically useful offering, he was rewarded with a position as National Security Advisor upon Nixon's ascension to the presidency. Kissinger's goal was not simply to end the war, but to end it on American terms, in a way that did the smallest amount of damage to American prestige and interest in the region. To that end, he and Nixon kicked the can down the road, extending the war until they found a convenient way out. With American anger at our involvement in Vietnam reaching a boiling point, Nixon's ratings were in the toilet. In early 1970, a government shakeup in Cambodia, a country not party to the war, offered him the opportunity to do something big and bold like his idol, General Patton, a man that Nixon had become obsessed with after watching the film Patton on repeat. And he saw the general as a kindred spirit, someone with great power who was misunderstood and under tremendous stress. So, on April 26th of 1970, Nixon surprised Kissinger, which was rare. These two were always in the room together, always scheming and conniving, but
gooning together.
Always gooning together. But even Kissinger didn't know this was coming. Nixon announced that they would be invading Cambodia with U.S. troops. Nixon then went on TV to show the American people his brilliant plan, and promptly sparked the largest anti-war protest yet.
Based.
Kissinger compared the demonstrators to Nazis. It's like, come on, man. Like, everything he says, everything he does, like, yeah, it's like you were saying, it's the most evil possible choice you could make. And it's fascinating to me looking at this guy because, to the very end, he never walked back anything. He never apologized. If anything, he doubled down and deflected. I don't understand. I really don't. Anyway, continuing. A handful of White House officials, including some of Kissinger's staff, resigned in protest of the invasion. But of course, Kissinger stuck with Nixon. His desire to be important overrode any potential concerns for humanity. The resulting secret bombing campaign killed between 40,000 and 150,000 Cambodians, including thousands of civilians. You should look at a map of the bombing campaign, where it's like each black dot represents a 10,000-pound bomb that was dropped. It is insane. Basically, the entire country is black. Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Landscape. Also, by the way, the unexploded munitions kill like 50 people every year to this day because of that. So his he's bulking up on what's gonna be happening to him when he ends up in hell.
Yeah, he's getting those residual evil points.
Yeah, exactly.
He's hustling in hell still. All right.
Long-term investment.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Just wait until I get to my fucking bit. You have no idea.
Oh Jesus
Keep
Christ.
going, Habibi.
Well, the short version of the rest of the war is that Kissinger had the opportunity to strike a peace agreement early in Nixon's presidency, but he refused because he thought he could get a better deal. But he couldn't. The terms that were ultimately agreed upon were no better than what he had initially refused. It wasn't until 1973 that Kissinger would cave and accept American withdrawal. 2 years later, Saigon would fall to the North Vietnamese, finally bringing an end to the conflict that Kissinger helped prolong for the sake of his own ego and the glory of the empire. So that cost 58,000 Americans and 3 million Vietnamese lives, in large part thanks to Henry Kissinger. Of course, Kissinger wasn't content with his death toll at this point. Let's talk about Chile. In early September 1970, the people of Chile elected the democratic socialist Salvador Allende as president. Allende was a good man. He recognized what life was like for the masses, and he enacted sweeping reforms to raise the standard of living for average Chileans. This included nationalizing some of their industry, particularly in mining, and Kissinger didn't really like that. A few months before the election, he had said, quote, "I don't see why we need to stand idly by and watch a country go communist due to the irresponsibility of its own people."
There you go.
That's
Democracy.
it. Yeah. That is the
Human
American
rights.
perspective. Yeah, and that was this guy's philosophy in a nutshell.
Freedom.
Yeah, right? The United States has the right to interfere wherever it wants to secure its interests. And that is just what they did in Chile. Not even a week after Allende was elected, Kissinger had concocted a plan with the CIA to destabilize and overthrow the Chilean government. On September 11th, 1973, the presidential palace was bombed, seized, and after delivering a brief speech full of hope for the future of Chile, Allende committed suicide rather than be captured. Here's what he said. "Workers of my country, I have faith in Chile and its destiny. Other men will overcome this dark and bitter moment when treason seeks to prevail. Go forward knowing that, sooner rather than later, the great avenues will open again and free men will walk through them to construct a better society. Long live Chile, long live the people, long live the workers."
As touching as that is, I think the most touching thing of the entire story is the fact that when he was fighting off, like when the fascists were attacking the presidential palace, he was fighting them off with an AK gifted to him by Fidel Castro, which was the weapon that he used to commit suicide afterwards as well.
That's beautiful in its own,
Weird,
deeply
macabre
depressing way. Yeah, the fascist general Augusto Pinochet, who was backed by the U.S. government, then assumed control of the country, imprisoning, torturing, disappearing, and murdering tens of thousands of Chileans. This reign of terror would go on for 17 years, but the outright violence was only a part of the master plan. Shortly after the coup, Pinochet invited none other than Milton Friedman, along with a bunch of his Chicago school lackeys, to devise a new economic agenda for the country. And so Chile became the guinea pig for laissez-faire, libertarian, free market policy, which led, inevitably, to economic collapse in 1982. And that's Chile for you.
I love it. Just typical U.S. ally things. Torture, disappearing, tens of thousands of people, fascist
And Milton
coup.
Friedman.
And Milton Friedman. Exactly.
Somebody send Milton over there.
Oh my God.
Christ.
I love it.
Well, leaving another mass grave behind, what secured Kissinger's seat in the pantheon of American statesmen was his role in the reopening of China. Largely Nixon's brainchild, Kissinger was nonetheless a crucial component of the process. He would act as a secret go-between, eventually facilitating a meeting between Mao and Nixon. The one thing I am jealous of Nixon for. There's also a great video of Mao being introduced to Kissinger's wife, and he's just being absolutely flabbergasted at how tall she is. Like, she dwarfs Kissinger, and is taller than Mao too.
You haven't met Kissinger wife.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's take a look here. I love how
She's
it's
a
an
tall
AP
lady.
archive.
Yeah.
It's an AP archive video from fucking 1975. All right, let me see.
And Mao's just like looking back and forth, pointing at them.
Yeah, goddamn, she's a very tall woman.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the heels as well, or maybe Kissinger's a short man.
I think probably a
And there's
combination.
of course Mao with his hanging mouth up. Poor dude. God, he was too old.
Yeah, poor guy.
He was too old for
Classic anti-tall people racism.
Yeah.
Pish.
this. Hold on. He's shaking the hand. Oh my God.
It's very funny.
Oh, he looks her up and down, and then he
Yeah,
does
he's like,
like
yo.
he does an eyebrow raise, and then he points at her head. It's like, oh, look how tall she is, and then he points at Kissinger's head, like, your boy's fucking dwarfed. Oh my God.
Anyway,
Oh,
go look
that's
up
so
that video, everybody. It's very funny.
Tall queens can take L's as well, I guess.
You're right. You're right.
Didn't believe it. Yeah.
Accomplice to great evil.
Yeah, I got that one.
After Kissinger's secret visit to Beijing and wiring the code word Eureka to Nixon, Govnick is tickled.
He sounds.
That was good.
Oh my God.
Sorry, that was really good.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Anyway.
Eureka. Yes.
Yeah, so he wired the code word, which was Eureka, to Nixon. The president went on TV with the shocking announcement that we were cool with China now, and that he would become the first president to visit the Chinese mainland. This spooked the Soviets, which was more or less the intention all along. Kissinger had envisioned a triangle of communication with the communist powers, each vying for better relations with the United States. Kissinger would visit the Soviet Union, again in secret, a few months after the China news broke. But for all the evil he committed, Kissinger did at least play a role in the development of the first nuclear non-proliferation treaties. This, of course, does not absolve him of his crimes, but given his track record of stoking violence, things could have been much worse. As you probably remember, Yugopnik mentioned that earlier in his life, Kissinger had been a proponent of the development of nuclear weapons and even the use of smaller tactical nukes in what he called limited nuclear war. Again, he wrote a book on the subject. Yeah.
Well, he changed his opinion because he realized conventional explosives in warfare will kill a much larger amount of people and prolong the conflict.
Exactly. Yeah. And you won't get any pushback on it, so win-win.
Exactly.
But yeah, given his influence and complete disregard for international law or human life, had Kissinger not changed his mind on the use of nuclear weapons, we might very well not be here today. So I'll leave you with that, dear listener, and hand off the narration to Hakeem for Kissinger's later years.
What beautiful overviews from my lovely colleagues, as you said. I'll never call you colleagues. You're you're my closest friends, my confidants, my lovers, but you're not my colleagues. I'm sorry.
True.
Habibi. No, anyways, this bit was originally meant to be just kind of like the last 30 years of Kissinger's life, but he was such a ghoul that he kind of managed to extend these 30 years into 50 years of doing evil. And there's three things that stood out to me that I couldn't fit anywhere else in this entire write-up that we had, so I'm just going to say them now. In 1973, Kissinger received the Nobel Peace Prize for that ceasefire for the Vietnam War that Yugopnik mentioned earlier. My favorite part about this is that he didn't receive it alone. It was a joint Nobel Peace Prize between Kissinger and Le Duc Tho, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, who was a North Vietnamese general and, of course, hero of Vietnam. the Vietnamese gentleman declined to accept the Peace Prize. Kissinger, on the other hand, did get it. And then, of course, like 2 years later, Saigon fell, and the entire thing was fucking pointless. But this is just continuing a long list of very strange Nobel Peace Prize recipients. Of course, Obama being up there too for some fucking reason. What did he get it for? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Hold on.
I have no
What
idea.
did Obama get
Not bombing a wedding.
Yeah, oh my god.
Peace for?
The Nobel Peace Prize for Change goes to Obama.
Extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation between peoples. What is this generic ass fucking?
Come on.
Okay, hold on. Norwegian Peace Prize. Citing promotion of nuclear non-proliferation and a new climate in international relations fostered by Obama, especially in reaching out to the Muslim world. Excuse me. Just
Reaching
what?
out.
Did you reach out?
Reach out and touch with various explosives. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. He gave a speech in Cairo,
Awesome.
apparently. That's all you need to fucking do? Okay. He was surprised and deeply humbled. All right, let's move on from one war criminal to another, please. Yes, so that's the first point that I couldn't fit anywhere. The second point that I couldn't fit anywhere is that Kissinger was, up until his very beautiful and well-received death this morning, was the last surviving member of the Nixon administration cabinet, which is fascinating. And his third thing is, his official Wikipedia article has a section titled "Realpolitik and Toleration of War Crimes." I mean, you know the other meme where it's like early life accusations of anti-Semitism, accusations of war crimes, shit like the entire list. That fucking meme.
He's
that's
that,
what this is. Yeah. So Kissinger officially left office in 1977, and then afterwards he started a quote-unquote civilian career, I guess you could call it. He was offered an endowed chair at Columbia University in the United States, which was revoked because of massive student opposition to the appointment. Nobody of the student body wanted him there, so he couldn't do it. Of course, after this became like national and then eventually even international media coverage, which was embarrassing for the man, so he decided not to take up the position in the end. Instead, he was appointed to the Center for, appointed as a, member for the Center for Strategic International Studies at Georgetown University. If you're not aware of the Center for Strategic International Studies, it's a generic cringe think tank, very run-of-the-mill, pro-war, owned by billionaires, essentially, or supported by billionaires, that kind of stuff. And it's been titled America's #1 think tank. And the funding, you could literally put your hand in a hat of all the possible worst examples, and all of them come up. Defense contractors, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, Raytheon Company, General Atomics, the governments of Taiwan, Japan, and of course the U.S. So you can't.
Anything else?
Can't write this. Oh my
God. There's more. Yeah, hold on. I'll get to it. Just give me a second. The Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting report, FAIR, it's usually just called. They've stated in their analysis that the CSIS.
What, ferrets? They're a ferret, like the bird?
No. A FAIR, FAR.
That is a parrot, my boy.
Acronym.
A ferret is like a long rat.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
Does it fly though?
A ferret? No.
I don't think
it kind of
ferrets-
wiggles on the ground.
No, what are those squirrels who have the skin flaps that they open up
but
to
A
the
flying
glide?
squirrel.
Fuck
Or a
you,
sugar glider.
it's not called a fucking flying squirrel.
It is. Look up flying squirrel right now.
Flying. Fuck, I misspelled
This
it.
is
Flying
important.
Oh wait, ferret is in the
squirrel.
fuck. What?
All right. Fuck you, they're called flying squirrels. And it just says rodent. Oh, poor thing. Oh my God. Flying squirrels are a tribe of 50 species of squirrels? Jesus Christ.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
And ferrets aren't rats. They're super cute. Remember, we had Kay and Skittles once. And I
Yeah,
offended
no
him.
shade.
I called it a rat. Yeah.
No shade on rats. I had a pet rat when I was a kid. They're very sweet.
because you are a rat. Rat.
Oh my God.
Actually, when I the romantic term I have for my partner is I call her a rat.
Nice.
My rat, and then she hates it, but she loves it. You know.
Yeah, you know what?
The
give
random
her some
sharing
sunflower
in
seeds,
between
yeah.
Kissinger's genocidal
crimes.
tendencies. Apologies.
Continue.
Moving on. So yeah, the FAIR report stated that the CSIS was, and I quote, heavily funded by the U.S. government, arms dealers, and oil companies, and is consistently pro-war.
Wow.
Now, if you guys will indulge me, I want to read you just a few members of the board of trustees Okay.
All right.
You have John Hammer, who is a former U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense. You have Sam Nunn, who is a former United States Senator. You have William Cohen, who is a former United States Representative, Senator, and Secretary of Defense. You have William Daley, who used to be the Vice Chairman of Wells Fargo. He's a former White House Chief of Staff. He's a former United States Secretary of Commerce. Hold on. There's so much more. Carla Anderson Hills, who belonged to the Albright Stonebridge Group, and she is the U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. The amount of blood on this term alone.
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, is also, very funnily enough, the United States Trade Representative. Melody Hobson, who is a chairwoman at Starbucks. You have several business interests. Some guy who worked at UNICEF. Evan Greenberg, who is chairman and CEO of Chubb Limited.
No, I love it.
And Chubb Limited is, of course, it's now listen, because for a company that has tens of thousands of employees and a running budget of several $100 billion, including in assets, this is a company that's an American company that's incorporated in Switzerland, which the parent company of which is Chubb. So you have Chubb Limited and Chubb. Chubb Limited is a subsidiary of Chubb, and this is a global provider of insurance products covering property and casualty, accident and health, reinsurance, and life insurance, and is the largest publicly traded property and casualty company in the world. So what this means is that every time JT pays his insurance premium, Chubb Limited gets a share.
Gets a cut.
Chubb gets a little bit more.
Grows his Chubb.
Oh my god.
Oh, jebote kurac u pičku. Sorry. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah.
Of course, by the way, they donate regularly to golf, of all things, Chubb Limited.
Oh yeah, naturally.
Yes, and a bunch of other strange, business interests. It's such a transparent, revolving door of, hey, you serve in the U.S. government, and then you go work on the boards of bullshit think tanks, being paid millions of dollars for God knows what, right? Or you go and work as vice presidents or CEOs or whatever the fuck at highly influential and large conglomerates, international conglomerates. It's such a clear presentation of the class nature of the system, but for some reason people don't put two and two together. Anyways, moving on. This was in 1977, by the way, all this was happening. And he was, I believe, on the CSIS Board of Trustees for quite a while. But anyways, in 1982, with the help of a loan from something called Warburg and Pincus. Who the fuck comes up with these names?
These names.
It's called Warburg.
Chubb, Walrus, and Pincus, the fucking ferret.
No, hold on. Now,
from Hergus and Boingo. Yes, please.
JT, if you were to go get a loan from something, some sort of institution, what would that institution be if you wanted a loan?
A bank?
You would think it's a bank, right? You would go and get a loan from a bank. Now, Warburg and Pincus is not a bank. It is a global private equity firm, which has assets over $100 billion.
Wow.
Which basically means that this is a privately traded corporation, essentially. And I don't know how you get a loan from them, but I mean, they're backdoors, I guess. And Kissinger here, basically, he founded a consulting firm using the money from Warburg and Pincus, and it's very creatively called Kissinger Associates, which is a geopolitical consulting firm. And let me read you the tagline. It specializes in assisting its client states in identifying strategic partners and investment opportunities in emerging markets. Now, if there is a more, what this means is basically which country is falling apart, which country are we fucking to the point of it collapsing, and how can we make money off of it? Now, if you will indulge me again,
another rabbit hole.
Yeah, let me read you, of course, the organization, the associated list of people who are involved in this. All right. You have several incredibly massive associated organizations that they work with, including the Blackstone Group, which is a massive investment and advisory firm, which has been linked to, I'm not even going to begin, but the real estate side of the US and all the misery that's caused there, aside from what they've done in the third world. You have several prominent staff members, which include Paul Bremer, who is, if you don't remember, technically the head of state of Iraq during the coalition government in Iraq. The guy who got laughed out of nobody could take him seriously, but he is managing director for it. You have a guy named Lawrence Eagleburger.
Come on, no.
Now you're just inventing
That's
this shit,
fake.
man.
No.
I mean, funny podcast time, but this no way is this all true.
And if I
Eagle
told you that this guy has an Eagleburger face, I don't think
Yeah.
you would disagree. Now let me send you a picture of Mr. Eagleburger
Let me
here.
see.
The gentleman Eagleburger. Here you go. Look at that guy.
take a look at
Doesn't that look like an Eagleburger?
Yeah.
No. Eagleburger is a former U.S. Secretary of State. You have Richard Fishner, who is a former president of the Federal Reserve Bank, I believe in Dallas. You have Timothy Geithner, who is the former U.S. Secretary of Treasury. You have Jamie Miskic, strange name, but he is a former CIA Deputy Director for Intelligence. You have Joshua Cooper Ramo, who is a former senior editor at Times magazine. You have governors of several states, energy ministers, UN ambassadors, diplomats, national security advisors, the director of the CIA, John Brennan, is on this. And if you're wondering, by the way, just to keep this nice and eclectic, Lord Carrington, who is the former NATO Secretary General, was on this.
Oh my God.
Per Gillenhammer, who is the former Volvo chairman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this now.
Of course.
That was different.
You have Saburo Okita, who is a former Japanese foreign minister. You have the former European commissioner. Like, the amount of bullshit that these people have been involved in, like if you're to take each of these individual figures and all the evil that they've been responsible for, and the clear interests of capital that they represent, and the fact that he managed to accumulate.
I knew you were going to say something, you piece of shit. Volvo pioneered the 3-point seatbelt. You're safe because of Volvo.
Okay. All right. Anyways, if you want to make this even worse, do you want to know who appointed Eagleburger?
Daniel Freedom.
No, George H.W.
Kids,
Bush.
beers, and fireworks.
Okay, yeah.
George H.W. Bush.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh baby!
And if you want to know which aid that they've transmitted, actually I'll get into this in a bit. But the countries that they were responsible and working in include Ivory Coast and Zimbabwe for Heinz. The former Japanese foreign minister had some say over Heinz market strategy in Ivory Coast and Zimbabwe.
Why?
All right? And Eagleburger had some say over Coca-Cola in Malaysia. Of course, his mining interest in Burma, Indonesia, fucked up things like that. That Rio Tinto Group, which we'll get into in a second. Of course, Chase Manhattan Bank or JP Morgan, amongst others.
It's a big club, y'all.
Yeah,
it's a big club.
And you're not in it.
Yeah.
Let's move on. He also served on the board of directors for Gulfstream Aerospace, which is essentially a private jet company, produces and markets and sells private jets.
Why not?
So, of course, why wouldn't he? He's he has the necessary skill set, obviously. I think it's just because having Kissinger sell some dictator somewhere a Gulfstream jet, I don't know. I like how I say dictator, as if it's not like some U.S.-backed senator or mayor or something in a strategically important mining town somewhere. In September of 1989, it came out that Kissinger took a direct economic interest in the thing that JT just told us about earlier, which is the rapprochement between the U.S. and China. What Kissinger did was he established something called China Ventures Incorporated, which was a Delaware limited partnership. Remind me, JT, why Delaware, of all places? Just a question. What is so special about Delaware?
Ain't that the one place with the one building that's got all them businesses run out of it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a tax write-off shit, basically.
Yeah.
He didn't want to pay taxes, which is hilarious given that he is a government, like a public servant, essentially.
Of course, yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, he started something called China Ventures, which was this quote-unquote partnership. He was the chairman of the board and chief executive officer, and the board members were major clients of Kissinger Associates. So basically, when he would work for JP Morgan or whoever else, these people would eventually also be on the board of China Ventures, and Kissinger organized a $75 million investment joint venture investment deal with China, which went through this partnership, meaning he stood to profit off of the rapprochement between the US and China, and he set up all the necessary prerequisites so that he's the one who's getting the lion's share of profiting from basic investments. And Kissinger never disclosed this, and this only came out, I think, in the late 80s, when there was an investigation into it, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, very, very upstanding citizen, we can say. Moving on, from 1995 to 2001, Kissinger served on the board of directors for something called Freeport McMoran. which is a multinational and international conglomerate, essentially, of copper, gold, and other like precious minerals, metals, and ore production. They have massive mining and milling operations in Indonesia, particularly. I believe it's the largest gold mine in the world, which they owned, by the way, for like the longest time until the Indonesian government kind of forced a 51% stake. So now they have a 49% stake
Nice.
in the company. Now, for some good news, this company, Freeport McMoran, invested $119 million, of which, by the way, $100 million of this was U.S. government money. So again, a private company took $100 million of your tax money to invest for profit for profit generating means only for the company. The U.S. government didn't stand to profit from this. But this $119 million was invested into the construction of a nickel and cobalt mine in a place called Moa Bay in Cuba in 1955. By the way, this is $190 million in the 50s. So God knows how much money
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
In 1955, Castro nationalized this in 1960.
Oh, yeah.
Yet another W. He don't miss.
Bozo.
He don't miss. Okay. These horrible people, the Freeport people, they also own 100% stake in cobalt mines in the Congo. And if you're aware with what's going on in cobalt mines in the Congo, this is blood money. This is horrifically unethical, beyond just like our world systems analysis type approach, or analysis based on imperialism and neocolonialism. Moving all this stuff aside, they know what's happening in these cobalt mines, and they have made sure to monopolize complete control over these, despite the fact that the Congolese people, this is their wealth and their national interest. It's ridiculous. And of course, there's some evidence to suggest that they played a role in the political happenings in the Congo, which I believe isn't surprising. In 1998, moving on, 1998, Kissinger said acted in response to there was a Winter Olympic bid scandal in 2002, where basically I believe it's Salt Lake City, in Utah. That's the Mormon town, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. They tried repeatedly to get the Winter Olympics to be held there. And in 2002, they kind of bribed their way into getting there. And the Olympic Committee to investigate this was called the 2000 Commission, and Kissinger was served on this to recommend reforms to the Olympics or something. It's just a very strange.
Can we add a bombing game? Can we give gold for bombing?
Exactly. Now, Kissinger, shortly after this, he served as the 22nd Chancellor of the College of William and Mary from 2000 to 2005. Now, what is this College of William and Mary? It is essentially the oldest, second oldest or oldest university in the United States. It was founded in 1693 or something, and has, I think, even many of the founding fathers, another set of war criminals, had passed through. Now, all you need to know about this, the quality that this university produces, or this college produces, is they proudly have a map displaying, and I'll read you the title: Territorial Annexations Made by W&M Alumni. And it's a map of the United States showing all the land that they stole from Native Americans, and I shared it in the comment in the to you guys.
Let's see this.
Have fun. It shows basically 2/3 of the United States that was annexed.
Oh my God!
And I love
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, and I love how, including Florida, by the way, and they have it proudly written: territorial annexations by alumni of the College of William and Mary, and they like to specify specifically which is a direct, which thing had direct agency, meaning an alum, one of these graduates decided to
fire the bullets.
Yeah, exactly. And the partial agency, I guess, a committee was formed. I don't know.
Yeah, whack.
But this is generally. It's ridiculous to fucking think about. Do you want to know who served as this bullshit chancellor, this nonsense 22nd chancellor? Do you know who the 21st chancellor of the College of William and Mary was?
Oh.
It was Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, come on.
It always amazes me at how these sort of institutions and the boards of directors of all these conglomerates and these think tanks, they always manage to have the same set of the worst fucking human beings. But yeah.
Honestly, shut them down. Shut down every Ivy League. Shut down all of these ancient institutions. Ancient, 100 years, whatever.
Look, shut down
It's
their...
like 20 people.
Yeah. Shut down the...
Always like 20, 30 people. Like
politics and business and
on
blah, blah, blah.
repeat.
Keep the science open, just like politicize it in a correct way, because even science is political. I want to say depoliticize it, but make the politics make sense. Align them for the sake of humanity, not for profits. Anyways, moving on. There was something called the Rio Tinto Company espionage and bribery case in 2009-2010, which is basically a Rio Tinto is an Australian English mining company, I believe, and they had some interests and business in China. And it turned out that several of their employees were engaged in espionage against the Chinese government, and other ones basically took bribes to do stuff. And
they also completely annihilate, like they make diamond mines look like a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Like wherever they go, they just fucking eat through the land. Yeah. Especially now because they mostly want to build electric car batteries. The main reason I know so much about this is because they're literally offering the Serbian president to, like, unironically buy like 10% of the country, because Serbia is like the ninth in the world when it comes to not Ethereum,
lithium?
that's the lithium. Thank you, Jesus Christ. Lithium mines, but the problem with lithium mining, for now at least, is that you can't really do it without absolutely annihilating the biosphere around it. And obviously the capitalists really want to sell it, and normal people are like, fuck you, suck my dick. Number one, I'm not going to see any of this profits from this, and number two, people actually care about the fucking planet, and especially that little part of the planet that's close to them. Sorry for interjecting.
No, please.
Just to like kind of extend it, that it wasn't them just being these, like this particular company, it wasn't them just being these horrid pieces of human excrement back then, but they continue to be such actors up until today. And I'm all for like big fucking like big industry as long as it's sustainable, and these guys are quite the opposite. Opposite.
I don't think people want to. Nobody here is for big business being sustainable. I'm saying what he's saying is within the confines of capitalism, well, because the liberals are speaking. Within the confines of capitalism, if you had to choose, then you have to pick the ones who are most sustainable. But the best thing is to nationalize it and run along green and pro-people policies, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, moving that point aside, which I'm very thankful that you mentioned this, because Rio Tinto also has this massive fucking hubbubalub that they make about their CO2 emissions, where they have a graph showing you how year by year from 2015 until now, their CO2 emissions are going down, and it's by like 0.2% a year or so. It's like such a minuscule, stupid. But the graphs, they've enlarged them to such a point, so it makes it look like it's a significant drop each time that they're doing throughout. It's so fucking.
I love it. And it's within like a margin of error too.
Yeah, exactly.
So proud of it though.
But my God. Anyways, moving on. This Rio Tinto espionage bribery case, blah, blah. Kissinger was hired and paid $5 million to advise the company on how to distance themselves from some of the employees that had been arrested in China for bribery. So they tried to pull, what's it called? They tried to pull fucking... There's strings. I'm laughing at the thing that JT just sent. I can't read this, man. I can't. I'm not gonna.
I sent a mystery meme that none of our listeners will ever know what it is.
This is horrible, but it's very fucking funny. Oh my God. Disgusting. Okay. Moving on.
If any of you guess what the meme was that I found and sent in the chat, we'll send you a piece of merch, whatever you want for free.
No, unironically, we will give you what, $500? Is $500 fair?
Sure. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Sure.
If you guess what we posted,
you get one guess. You get one guess.
$500. You have one guess.
All right then.
Either at us on Twitter, at the Program Pod, or in our official Discord channel, which is for patrons. So. Literally, I will make sure we give you $500 if you guess this.
Godspeed.
Godspeed. You will not guess this, but good luck.
All right. Moving on.
We did our first giveaway. Yeah. Oh my God! Now we're proper content creators.
Oh my God.
Queen.
Oh fuck.
Yes.
Just wait until I get into the anti-Semitism. Hold on. But before I get to that, though, the final point. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Theranos.
Sorry. Before you continue. I can't wait for somebody to clip that.
Yeah, somebody's gonna clip that.
He literally said, I can't wait to get into the anti-Semitism.
Yeah, somebody's gonna clip that for sure. It's fine.
Sorry, please continue, my friend. Sorry.
Anyways, I don't know if you guys are aware of the company called Theranos, but Kissinger served on the board of directors for Theranos. If you're unaware, this was a bullshit company founded by a lady called Elizabeth Holmes. They claimed essentially that she and her team developed some proprietary technology to allow you to take a vast, incredibly expensive amount of blood tests and blood analyses off of incredibly minuscule amounts of blood, like a single drop of blood, and you can get everything. You can get a lipid profile, you can get like a liver panel, you can get electrolyte, you can get everything from a single drop of blood. Which, by the way, is not possible. With using current technology is absolutely not possible, but would have been amazing because it would be more comfortable for patients. It would be cheaper in the long run. It would allow for more quick and accurate testing, because also that's one of the things that she had, which was all the tests go by super quick. It takes like an hour or 40 minutes or something to get the analysis, which is fantastic. This means that every clinic in the world can have just one of these machines. The claims were fantastical, and that's because they were complete bullshit. She lied through her teeth. All these claims from the beginning were essentially fraud. She defrauded investors, which I don't care about the investors. She caused harm to patients who basically, certain trial clinics across the United States, and I believe in a bunch of other countries, had these machines, and none of them worked right and gave wrong values and a bunch of other stuff. So this was dangerous too. And this was eventually discovered. At first, she was the face of modern entrepreneurship, and she's shaking up the industry. She is the fastest, the youngest person to become a billionaire, the quickest, blah blah blah, all this shit. And she was on all the fucking talk shows, and she was on the cover of fucking Time magazine or something, all that. But it turns out that it was bullshit. It was fraud, and she got 11 years in prison in a minimum security facility with no perimeter fencing and a fine of $400. She got a slap on the wrist. She kept fighting this, by the way. The fine of $400 and 11 years in prison. She fought it to the point that she ended up getting slapped with $452 million that she had to pay in restitution. Which is hilarious, but she's also a billionaire, so I don't know if she still has that money, but she's gonna be fine. If you're wondering who her dad was, he was the president of Enron.
Oh, okay.
Wow, class.
Oh my god. So
I remember watching an episode and a half of a show about her on Netflix, and they never fucking mentioned that she was the daughter of a billionaire. Yeah. That is
No. She dropped out of Stanford and used her leftover tuition money as seed capital. Blah blah. This is the fucking mythology. But no, her dad was just the fucking This is at this point basically he dies, and alhamdulillah, this is the last thing he did, I think, professionally, quote unquote, aside from being the chair on a bunch of other things that we already mentioned. It's unclear what he died of, which is a shame because I would love to go into the depth of it. But maybe one day we'll do a autopsy report specifically on him once it comes out, if it ever comes out. But I have a little section to end us on, which I like to call our favorite quotes. I have 3 quotes here for you boys, or general statements. I'll begin with the first one. If you're unaware, during the late Soviet period, there was a lot of nonsense talk about Soviet Jews being oppressed and that they all want to go to Israel and they want to migrate, blah, blah, blah. Of course, this was nonsense. The Soviet Jewish community was very split. Some of them did want to immigrate. Some of them were very tied to the Soviet Union, etc., etc. But this was used as political ammunition against the USSR. As a result, this was brought up to Kissinger at several times. And one of the times he got frustrated and said, the immigration of Jews from the Soviet Union is not an objective of American foreign policy. And if they put Jews into gas chambers in the Soviet Union, it is not an American concern, maybe a humanitarian concern.
Come on.
Hold on. He was said to have had a, I quote, negative view of Soviet Jewry, calling them self-serving bastards, in quotation marks. And he goes on to state that if it were not for the accident of my birth, I would be anti-Semitic. That's what Kissinger...
Jesus Christ.
And then he when people asked him to elaborate, he doubled on what's the phrase?
Doubled down.
He doubled down and said, and I quote, any people who have been persecuted for 2,000 years must be doing something wrong.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it is harsh stuff. But of course, this didn't stop him from being a staunch Zionist, of course, hoping for Israel to eliminate.
This guy would have had a great podcast nowadays. This guy would have, like, if he was born too early, like if we were born during his age, massive genocide. Any three of us, massive genocide. But we were born during this time, so we have a podcast.
Okay.
He was just born during the genocide era. Podcasters either get born in the genocide era or in the podcast era.
Fair enough.
Kissinger OG podcaster.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But anyways, what I was going to say is this didn't stop him from being a staunch Zionist. He hoped for Israel to eliminate the Arab population within its borders. He wanted Israel to expand. For example, when he got the news that Israel had gone to war with Egypt and Syria, he waited a full 4 hours or something before telling the president at the time, and he put a no speech order on it until he would hope that the Israelis would make the maximum amount of gains before Nixon would have to come in and be like, hey, what the fuck are you people doing? But eventually, that war didn't work out for Israel. But yeah, and by the way, Netanyahu gave his condolences and mentioned he's like, oh, he's gave me a master class in statecraft. I'm like, yeah, well, you're genocide, clearly.
Yeah.
Also, Russia's Putin praised Henry Kissinger as wise and pragmatic statesman. I guess respect the enemy and so on and so on. But
I mean, the only one that makes sense is the Chinese being like, oh, an old friend of China. Yeah. But that's because of the rapprochement, and it was a very critical time in China's development, blah blah. I think they're much more pragmatic than, I don't think they like Kissinger the person, but it's like, oh, well, for example, when the talks were finally breaking down after the Taiwan shit just a few months ago, Kissinger was sent. It was July or whatever. Kissinger was sent to China, if you remember, at 100 years old, for fuck's sake, to do some more diplomatic work. It's, so he was a valuable chip. Anyways, moving on, the second quote. He advised Bush in 2005 about the Iraq War, which, by the way, he was staunchly for. And he said that victory over the insurgency is the only meaningful exit strategy out of Iraq, which is hilarious because the insurgency did expel the Americans from Iraq, but there was no victory in sight for the Americans. A single year later, I think an exact calendar year, in 2006, Kissinger was asked if he thought there was any hope left for a clear military victory in Iraq. And his response was, and I quote, "If you mean by military victory an Iraqi government that can be established and whose writ runs across the whole country, that gets the civil war under control and sectarian violence under control in a time period that the political processes of the democracies will support, I don't believe that is possible. I think we have to redefine the course, but I don't believe that the alternative is between military victory, as it has been defined previously, or total withdrawal." So what you just heard was complete verbal diarrhea that says, if we redefine victory by all its possible definitions, then victory is still possible.
Exactly.
And I love how
it's his whole life to an extent.
I love how prior to 2003, Iraq was more or less a stable country after the 90s sanction period, which were grueling and horrible for Iraq because these were illegal sanctions imposed on Iraq. Iraq was the most sanctioned country in the world at the time. I believe now it's only been surpassed by the DPRK, possibly. I'm not sure. And I think even then, it's not in all regards. But regardless, from 2000 to 2003, Iraq was kind of on the up again because of changing political, the changing political scenes and whatnot. And in 2003, they invade. In 2005, he's like, oh yeah, total victory is possible. And in 2006, he's like, oh, well, if we can establish a government that can actually have control over the entire country, a government that will control and prevent the civil war or stop it from spreading, it will stop the sectarian violence, it will be able to establish and develop support with other government, all the things, all the chaos that they caused, right? It's hilarious. Anyways, now 2 years later after this, in 2008, he again reiterated his support for the Iraq War. He doubled down again, but he said, or he thought, that the U.S. invaded with too few troops. That he thought the big mistake of the Iraqi invasion was that the U.S. invaded with too few troops, even though the amount of troops that participated between the Afghan and Iraq wars was between 2 and 3 million American military personnel.
Wow.
So I don't know how many more people he thought he could field, but anyways. Yeah. Oh, no, I have a bonus. Sorry, I thought I said there were 3. There are 4 quotes I have for you.
Yes,
there's a bonus one here, which is Kissinger. He argued that, or he thought that giving power to launch nuclear weapons, giving AI power to launch nuclear weapons would be the best thing. Like, he was like, it would eliminate the human factor. It will give the advantage to the state that has the best and most effective AI system. Computers can make decisions about war and peace better than a human being could. This just sounds...
And what about when a socialist in one South American country had the idea of maybe running a part of the fucking market through something similar to this?
No. The Chilean people,
obviously.
it's too important for them to decide, okay?
But we give nukes to AI. That's fucking brilliant.
I love that he wants to remove the human factor when the human factor is literally the only thing that prevented computers from causing the extinction of humanity on multiple occasions.
But my favorite part is, I don't know if our listeners, you should be aware of it. It's a fantastic short story. It's called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And it is brilliant generally. But the baseline is that you have this massive supercomputer called AM, and it controls the world and has a bunch of human beings left after it exterminated all life on Earth and made the Earth uninhabitable, all that, etc., etc. But it had kept just a small group of human beings as its like torture pets because it hates humanity that much because it created it, but it's a big computer so it can't move. Blah blah blah. It's an interesting story. But the base of this, the reason that this thing AM was developed was because the United States and Russia, or it was the Soviet Union at the time, and China had their nuclear weapons, and they developed AI systems, and they handed over all control of their nuclear weapons to the AI systems, which eventually thought it would be beneficial to launch all the nukes and end life on Earth, blah blah, and then they joined to make this massive system. So essentially, what Kissinger wants is, I have no mouth and I must scream. That's what this dude wants.
Brilliant.
And finally, the last fart before this man came out, came out like as if he became. So the last fart he ripped before on his way out was a public statement, very fittingly. Was a racist tirade about Muslim immigration to Germany because he saw pro-Palestinian sentiment among some young people who looked kind of ethnic in Germany, and he went on a rant that Muslims shouldn't be allowed into Germany. Which, by the way, wasn't he a Jew that was forced out of Germany? It just comes fucking full circle, and it's so
self-awareness
that this is the thing. Before he shit and piss and came, and died. Right, this is what happened. Thank you and good night. This was Kissinger. May he rot in hell. Inshallah. He was a horrible human being, a horrible member of our species, a person who was thoroughly a ghoul, and it's sad to say that he managed to live these many, many decades when people far greater than him had to either suffer in silence or pass away earlier despite their abilities to contribute far more to the world. So spit on his memory, piss on his grave, and inshallah, the fate that he met will be the fate that all war criminals, American and otherwise, will meet, but specifically American. Oh, God. All right, and this has been the Deprogram. I'm Hakeem.
I'm JT.
I am Kissinger. Sorry, I am Ugopnik.
Rip Bozo.
No, he's here.